The Arts Council of England asked the NFER to summarize recent research and theory on creativity in early childhood. The work entailed a selective review of research and theory published between 1988 and 2000 and resulted in a briefing paper on the subject. 1. This article sets out to update the earlier paper and to identify some of the principles involved in helping young children to develop their creativity in early years settings. How has creativity been interpreted in educational policy? Creativity has recently been granted official recognition as one of the overarching aims of the curriculum in English schools. The curriculum should enable pupils to think creatively and critically, to solve problems and to make a difference for the better. It should give them the opportunity to become creative, innovative, enterprising and capable of leadership, to equip them for their future lives as workers and citizens. The foundation stage curriculum is aimed at early years settings, providing for children aged around 3 to 6 years. The curriculum is divided into 6 main areas of learning, one of which is creative development. According to the curriculum guidance for the foundation stage in 2000. In 2014, I migrated to England and began my teaching profession as a cover teacher for reception and KS1. About 5 years ago, I began teaching at a 5-form entry primary school in East London as a Year 2 teacher with my own classroom responsibilities. Last year, I took on the role as learning leader for Year 2 and therefore I am responsible for supporting the academic development and well-being of roughly 130 children and assisting colleagues to ensure teacher standards are met to a high degree. More recently, I have begun mentoring other developing teacher trainees on their journey within education. However, 5 years ago at the beginning of my own journey as a Year 2 teacher, due to the restrictions from my school because of a requires improvement report from Ofsted, it began limiting teacher choice and shaped classroom practice prescriptively. At the time, the school's priorities were constantly shifting, grasping onto any strategy that might get the school collectively to a good standard. There was emphasis on a creative curriculum which was set out for us, however it barely scratched the surface because professional dialogue or development days never got to the root of the school's problem nor did not dig deep enough for educators to understand the reasons behind the methods that were chosen to be implemented.
Many technologies have promised these qualities, but few have been commercially viable. What's been lacking is the performance data needed to demonstrate that these technologies are durable, genuinely environmentally beneficial, and suitable to be insured. Over the past 13 years, our Department of Architecture and Civil Engineering has led on research into straw as a low-impact building material. This work, which has included developing a unique straw bale panel as well as scientific monitoring and testing, has now culminated in crucial industry certifications. The BMTRAD ACE Q Mark certification guarantees a straw building's energy efficiency, fire safety, durability and weather resilience, and means that developers and homebuyers can now get insurance and mortgages for straw homes and buildings. The innovative straw walls in the new houses provide 2 times more insulation than required by current UK building regulations. Based on monitoring a residential straw bale development in Leeds, fuel bill reductions up to 90% can be expected. The walls have been built using model technology, prefabricated panels consisting of a wooden structural frame infilled with straw bales or hemp and rendered with either a breathable lime-based system or ventilated timber or brick cladding. This technology combines the lowest carbon footprint and the best operational CO2 performance of any system of construction currently available. In fact, as an agricultural co-product, straw buildings can be carbon negative as straw absorbs CO2 when it grows. In such an environment, warfare is no longer purely directed against the military potential of adversarial states. It is rather directed at infiltrating all areas of their societies and to threaten their existences. The comparatively easy access to weapons of mass destruction, in particular relatively and low-cost biological agents, is of key concern. Both government and non-governmental actors prefer to use force in a way that can be characterized as unconventional, or also as small wars. War waged according to conventions is an interstate phenomenon. The small war is the archetype of war, in which the protagonists acknowledge no rules and permanently try to violate what conventions do exist. The protagonists of the small war observe neither international standards nor arms control agreements. They make use of territories where they do not have to fear any sanctions because there is no functioning state to assume charge of such sanctions or because the state in question is too weak to impose such sanctions. This type of war does not provide for any warning time. It challenges not only the external security of the nation-states and international community, but also their internal safety. The leader can define or clarify goals by issuing a memo or an executive order, an edict or a fatwa or a tweet, by passing a law, barking a command, or presenting interesting idea in a meeting of colleagues. Leaders can mobilize people's energies in ways that range from subtle, quiet persuasion to the coercive threat or the use of deadly force. Sometimes a charismatic leader such as Martin Luther King Jr. can define goals and mobilize energies through rhetoric and the power of example. We can think of leadership as a spectrum, in terms of both visibility and the power the leader wields. On one end of the spectrum, we have the most visible, authoritative leaders like the President of the United States or the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, or a dictator such as Hitler or Gaddafi. At the opposite end of the spectrum is casual, low-key leadership found in countless situations every day around the world, leadership that can make a significant difference to the individuals whose lives are touched by it. Over the centuries, the first kind, the out in front, authoritative leadership has generally been exhibited by men. Some men in positions of great authority, including Nelson Mandela, have chosen a strategy of leading from behind. More often, however, top leaders have been quite visible in their exercise of power. Women, as well as some men, have provided casual, low-key leadership behind the scenes. But this pattern has been changing, as more women have taken up opportunities for visible, authoritative leadership. We live in an aging world. While this has been recognized for some time in developed countries, it is only recently that this phenomenon has been fully acknowledged. Global communication is shrinking the world, and global aging is maturing it. The increasing presence of older persons in the world is making people of all ages more aware that we live in a diverse and multi-generational society. It is no longer possible to ignore aging, regardless of whether one views it positively or negatively. Demographics note that if current trends in aging continue as predicted, a demographic revolution, wherein the proportions of the young and the old will undergo a historic crossover, will be felt in just 3 generations. This portrait of change in the world's population parallels the magnitude of the Industrial Revolution, traditionally considered the most significant social and economic breakthrough in the history of humankind since the Neolithic period. It marked the beginning of a sustained movement towards modern economic growth in much the same way that globalization is today marking an unprecedented and sustained movement toward a global culture. The demographic revolution, it is envisaged, will be at least as powerful. While the future effects are not known, a likely scenario is one where both the challenges as well as the opportunities will emerge from a vessel into which exploration and research, dialogue and debate are poured. Challenges arise as social and economic structures try to adjust to the simultaneous phenomenon of diminishing young cohorts with rising older ones,